many climate solutions are developed by small businesses. Most of the financial ecosystem, particularly the financial ecosystem in the development finance space, does not go all the way to the ground and definitely doesn't go small. So for the World Bank to kind of step out and really step up or kind of set up these innovation centers, that's fantastic. We probably need hundreds more of them everywhere, right?
Yes.
All climate action is local. All climate solutions are in a local context, particularly as the world gets warmer and the impacts are kind of felt more acutely at the local level. We can talk about heat, which a lot of people feel, but storms, droughts, water stress, all of those things are quite local. So solutions to those things need to be born from the context that people live in. The other thing is that you mentioned, Ruka, in your comments, you mentioned 91% of the Ghanaian kind of business community is in SMEs. I would posit that probably is reflected, in a lot of countries around the world. Small businesses get stuff done. I would say more importantly, particularly for entrepreneurs who are on their first ride, how do you grow a business? You have a good idea to solve climate change, but getting to the revenues that can enable you to scale is not obvious. Sometimes people with a good idea are engineers, but they've never managed a team. They've never run payroll. They've never leveraged internally for growth. It's not easy to build a small business, but with a lot of grit, you can get so far. But actually to build a thriving, successful business, you need a whole bunch of other skills. A lot of incubators can provide that and should be providing that, because that's the part that is not really kind of obvious to a lot of first-time entrepreneurs. You do that, then you can start to build scale. You can start to build kind of companies that can serve wider parts of the market, maybe go outside their country, go regional. Wouldn't it be great kind of if they became global? Those are the types of things that you can start to envision from a growth perspective. We spend a lot of time talking about things like NDCs, things like good regulatory environment. All of these things sit at a very macro level. But what they don't do is issue spot and fill in the gaps in terms of the financing ecosystem that can follow an entrepreneur through its growth. I think we need more equity on the ground. Equity is a very specific thing for country contexts. How do you invest in and exit out of an equity investment? Depends on where you're investing, right? Doing it in India is very difficult, right? This is contextual as much as climate change is contextual. Having that macro level view in the policy context around climate change that is specific to how those companies can be grown is missing. We have a lot of conversation about mobilizing private capital. There's a meeting across the street right now that is about NDCs and mobilizing private capital, and they're talking about institutional investors. Institutional investors have still not moved money into emerging markets, even though we've been talking about, in a major way, even though we've been talking about it for 20 years. What it's gonna take, we already know what those issues are, and yet we still keep talking about it because the dollars seem big, but action hasn't happened. So I would say we should kind of start at the bottom up and build from there. With the action that comes out of the innovation centers, not just yours, but a lot of them, with some of the tools that maybe some of the DFIs can provide, not just the money, but also the technical assistance, and bringing to these incubators the complementary support that's needed to grow those companies, while at the same time focusing on the business enabling environment and the financial ecosystem that can be there when those companies grow. That's how you're gonna see the garden.